Have you ever had that feeling? That feeling that there's just more to your mind than you're actually using? Like there's this hidden potential, maybe even some kind of superhuman ability, just waiting to be unlocked? Well, today we're going to dive right into that because we're exploring some pretty radical ideas about what controls us and, more importantly, what we can learn to control.
So let me ask you straight up. Are you really in control of your own mind? It seems like a simple question, right? But the answers we're about to explore, well, they're anything but simple. We're going to look at everything from invisible biological forces to some really deep psychological programming, and even these vast natural networks. It's all about understanding and maybe even mastering the human mind.
All right, let's start with an idea that's, well, it's pretty out there. This comes from a document called Parasite Pill 2.0. And the main claim, as you can see, is that we're being manipulated on a biological level, maybe without even knowing it. It's a pretty wild theory for sure, so let's unpack exactly what it's claiming.
So this first theory, it basically frames our whole struggle to unlock our potential as this big battle against what it calls the invisible architects. The idea is that there are these unseen forces actively working to limit us, right from the inside out.
And here are the specifics from that Parasite Pill 2.0 document. It alleges this huge, coordinated effort. We're talking about things in our water, our food, even the air. It claims the goal behind all of this is to weaken our natural defenses, making us more vulnerable to parasites that can actually influence our behavior. Now, these are some really serious claims, and it's super important to remember this is all coming from this one particular source.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little. We're moving from biology to psychology. What if the key to unlocking our potential isn't about fighting some physical invader, but it's about reprogramming our own mental software? This brings us to a really fascinating and, pretty controversial field.
Have you ever heard of NLP? It stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. The basic idea behind it is that you can essentially model the success of other people. You study their language, their behaviors, their mindset, and you replicate it to achieve your own goals. It's like trying to decode the software of human achievement. But, and this is a big but, here's where things get really complicated. As popular as NLP is in a lot of self-help circles, the scientific community, they're not so convinced. As you can see here, researchers have looked for the evidence time and time again, and they just can't find solid proof to back up the claims. It's led a lot of people to call it a pseudoscience. So you've got this huge split between what people believe and what science says it can prove.
And the guys who created it, they just add another fascinating layer to the whole story. You've got Richard Bandler, who's kind of the flashy public face of NLP. Then you've got John Grinder, this behind-the-scenes genius who actually trained people like Tony Robbins. Isn't it interesting that the master is way less known than the performer? It kind of makes you wonder, right? Where's the real power? In the flashy techniques or in the deep, quiet work?
Okay, let's pivot again. We've talked about man-made systems, conspiracies, psychological programming, but what if the real model for peak performance isn't in some seminar? What if it's been right under our feet this whole time, in a system that's billions of years old?
What you're looking at right here is mycelium. And you can think of it like the nervous system of the entire forest. It's this massive hidden web of fungal threads connecting all the plants and trees, letting them share nutrients and even send out warning signals to each other. It's literally nature's own information superhighway.
And then the famous mycologist Paul Stamets takes that idea and just launches it into the stratosphere with this quote. He doesn't just see a biological network, he sees something sensitive, something maybe even sentient, an Earth's natural internet. I mean, that idea of a planetary consciousness just completely changes how you see the world around you, doesn't it? And the scale of this whole thing it's just mind-boggling. Scientists think there could be up to 5 million different species of fungi on Earth. But get this is the part that blows my mind. We share more than half of our DNA with fungi. That suggests this really deep, ancient connection between us and this huge, intelligent network.
So we've looked at these outside forces, we've looked at psychological programming, we've looked at these giant natural networks, but what about our own internal operating system? What about our mindset? Let's explore two totally different, and I mean radically different, approaches to personal power. And here is one of those approaches perfectly summed up. This is the philosophy of Owen Cook. It's just this incredibly intense, relentless drive. It's all about action, speed, solving problems, faster, faster, faster. It's a mindset of just pure, raw, forward momentum.
And then, you have the complete opposite perspective. Here's Matthew McConaughey arguing for a whole different scoreboard. He's saying it's not about quantity, it's about quality. That this constant chase for what we call success is actually a short-sighted game, and that the real win is in playing the longer game. One that's more about fulfillment and how we treat ourselves and others.
So we have these two competing philosophies on how to live. But what if the choice wasn't just about philosophy? What if you could physically, literally, change the wiring in your brain to support the mindset you actually want? This is where the science gets really, really exciting. So check this out. This is the personal story of Paul Stamets. Yeah, the same mushroom expert from earlier. He had a really severe stutter his whole life. Then, during this incredibly intense experience with psilocybin mushrooms in the middle of a thunderstorm, he climbed a tree and just kept repeating to himself over and over hundreds of times, "Stop stuttering now." And the very next day, for the first time in his life, he walked up to a girl he liked and spoke to her without a single stutter. He believes he literally reset the neurology of his own brain.
And what happened to Stamets isn't just a wild story. Look at these brain scans. This shows us what's happening on a neurological level. On the left, that's a brain on a placebo. You see the normal, orderly connections. But on the right, wow, that's a brain on psilocybin. It's not just more activity, it's a completely different kind of activity. It's like the brain is lighting up like a Christmas tree, creating all these new, strong connections between parts that don't usually talk to each other. It's a neurological reset, right there in a picture.
The scientific name for this amazing process is neurogenesis. It's the brain's ability to grow, to form new connections, to physically change its own structure based on our experiences. So the key takeaway here is that rewriting your brain isn't just some cool metaphor. It's a real biological process.
And this is not some fringe idea anymore, not at all. The scientific community is taking this incredibly seriously. Right now, there are 235 clinical trials underway looking at how psilocybin can help with everything from addiction to Alzheimer's. It's a huge sign that we might be on the edge of a genuine revolution in how we understand and heal the human brain.
Which, of course, brings us all the way back to that first central question. Whether you believe it's about fighting off invisible forces, reprogramming your psychological software, or tapping into the raw neurogenerative power of nature, the potential to change seems to be baked right into our biology. So I guess the only question left to ask is, if you really could redesign your mind, who would you choose to become?